Time for a soccer down here 1v1, and we are officially in a no dilly, no dally zone because there's a developing story coming out of Jacksonville. And we have pulled this man out of his corner from JAXUSL, Mauricio Ruiz. Coach, I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's not waste any time. Thanks for coming on for an update.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me. Always enjoy being on your show, especially when we have some exciting things happening here in Jacksonville in the soccer scene.
All right, so I know that you'll have some teases coming up in just a little bit because there is a lot going on. But the biggest announcement that happened earlier this week, USL-S Super League is now online. Now that it is officially in paper form, officially released to everyone on this and every other planet, how does it feel to have this be that next stage for JAXUSL?
It feels great. Something that we've been working on. Obviously, we've known about it. We've just been waiting for the league to make that official announcement. One thing that the league has done really well is keep the other franchises really close to their chest. So we didn't really know who our sister, companies and teams would be in a sense. So now it's great to know that we automatically have a team in Tampa. We got a team in Carolina, in Dallas, a couple of teams out west. And it's just great to see how the league is going to shape and form, and then the role that we're going to have here in Jacksonville in bringing the first women's pro team of any sport to the city of Jacksonville. So for us, we feel like it's a historic event. Obviously, we have a big run up to it for 2025, but we're excited that we have that run up and, stadium pending and all the good stuff that everyone, is going to go through as well. But we're getting a lot of attention from the city, and so we're really excited to start working on it.
For those that don't know, can you break down how women's soccer specifically is a part of the fabric of what's going on there in Southeast Georgia and in Northeast Florida, and what it means and what the scope of it is, all of the 411 that folks need to know about it?
Well, if you were to put on a scale of successful stories that have come out of youth soccer here in Jacksonville, and you were to, quote unquote, now that we're encouraging this, compare the young boys versus the young ladies and kind of how their trajectory have gone into college and eventually pro national team representation, we've actually had more success on the women's side. So the scale would tip towards the women, but obviously there have been more opportunity on the men's side. So we typically tend to, think about the young men that have gone to some of the colleges, but really on the women's side, we've had more women representing the Power Five, which for a long time was the highest opportunity for women's soccer to play soccer. And then obviously in the WSL, we have Carson Pickett from our area. You have Morgan Bryan that's from South Georgia. We have some great names represent our national team. US Gators not too far down the road, national champions, great. So, and we're very much a SEC, ACC town. So if you think about the teams, from FSU, UF in Georgia and down to UCF, even in Orlando, there's a great amount of representation on the youth girls side that have gone out to do some great things and continue to do so. I think there are 4 young ladies from our region that are currently part of the U.S. Soccer Youth National Ecosystem. So for us to be able to represent and really put a team at the top of that pyramid and that scale, it's something that gives us great joy and also responsibility.
What's it been like to see the sport grow from the women's side of things? Let's just go ahead and say you mentioned NWSL in college. What's it been like to see it grow to where it is right now in the landscape over the last, say, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. Well, if you look at the several different iterations of women's pro soccer in our country, and we've been talking to quite a bit of them just for our own understanding and knowledge and context. As we put this team, out on the table, we want to make sure that we're well informed of the history behind it as well. There's an element of still a great amount of opportunity. And I spoke to someone recently, and they said that only about 2% of all sports marketing dollars goes towards women's sport. So, there's 12 teams in the NWSL, and it's been a pretty steady league. Now with 8 teams coming in the Super League, with 4 more to join in the next couple of years, it's going to start looking like a country that really prioritizes women opportunity and women's sport. And we have seen the interest grow. And now that we've announced the team locally, there's been a wealth and really excitable interest to when we're going to launch, what we're going to play, what we're going to be called. Are we going to be different than the men? Really educated people in a sense, but very enthusiastic audience that we've been able to bridge in a very short period, really a week of official announcement. And we have a in-house announcement that we'll be making the next month, that we believe it's going to draw even more interest and excitement from our local community.
Was there in the club's research and conversations and gaining of knowledge, was there something that was really like an aha and a wow, I didn't know that when it came to the sport? Or was it just it's like, okay, reinforcing what you already knew?
I think the aha is really what we were hoping for, and I think it proved to be true. Is just the amount of interest in investing in women's sport. I think now that we're saturated on a soccer landscape or a professional sport landscape in Jacksonville by any means, but we've had other rounds of men's professional soccer and professional. We have other minor league teams in town in baseball and hockey and basketball. So when we talk about the men's team, it's like, oh, great, we're excited, we'll be at the games. Well, now when we say, hey, we're bringing men and women, and now we're having to change our tune and said we're bringing women and men. We're starting to put that first and foremost because we're starting to see that almost have become the biggest of the interest. And I don't know if it's because of our ecosystem or because of the landscape and culture where women's sports representation is at in our country, and it might be. But locally, I think what we were hoping for is that amount of engagement and interest, and that's exactly what we're getting.
When it comes to all of these different folks that want to promote the game, they want to have folks learn the game, they want to have folks learn the game of soccer under their tent, whether it's an academy level or a college level or a franchise level. How do you unify the messaging so everyone can succeed, everyone can grow, everyone can learn, and everyone can advance, even though there are all of those separate interests at play? Because I know that there are academies and camps that want to have their message with their folks, and we want our messaging out there, and this is the only thing. But I think it's an opportunity for a lot of different messages to get out there and unify what's going on, because we always mention here at the network, rising tide lifts all boats. How much of a challenge is it going to be, and how much of a challenge is it to make sure that you can have rising tide there on the St. John's, and all of these different messages, all of these different folks, all of these different ideas can work forward to make sure that everything is a success when it comes to advancing the game?
Yeah, surely. And I think that is a challenge that we're happy to take on. We really want to be known as a community club and one that provides opportunities. And you talked about rising opportunity and rise up for the community. I think soccer is a very unique sport in the sense that we do take ownership of our city and the development and the growth of the game. I don't think necessarily other sport, think of themselves like that. I think they want to be an entertainment factor, and certainly we are too in soccer. But I think soccer has that really unifying and unique fabric to it that we really need the community along. And we have a growing interest of people moving to the St. John's, Jacksonville, Northeast Florida area, and they're bringing that culture with them, essentially post-COVID. So we have a unique opportunity to try to rebrand what soccer means for our community, the ones that have been here for a long time, that have championed it, have done a great job, but also with the influx of new residents to North Florida area, to introduce them to what soccer should be like without necessarily maybe some past, pains and hurt and failures, in our soccer community. So I think we have an opportunity to really unite and connect as best as we possibly can, and do our job trying to really connect our soccer community that are doing a great job. We have some really good local clubs in town that have developed young ladies and young men into the college and professional rankings. And our job is to create an environment and an atmosphere of unity and an atmosphere of connectivity, that they have access to our club, that we're going to be present in their objectives. We're going to be present in their events, and really try to connect our community as well as possible, so we can learn from each other. We can learn from each other's successes, but we can also learn and support each other in their failures. And we're sure going to fail. We're going to make mistakes. We know that going forward. But we know that if we have our community with us along that path, then it's going to be much easier for us to bounce back. If we're by ourselves in that journey, then it's a little bit more difficult to dust off and pick yourself up and go. But I think if we have our community around us in that project and we can support each other in our journeys, I think it would be a beautiful thing for the city of Jacksonville. I think that's something that we've been earning for a while. And whether people admit it or not, they really want someone like us to come in and try to be that unifying force. So that's a challenge that we have, but it's also the responsibility that we take on.
Because at the same time, and I mean, even if you look at it in the most geographic sense, I mean, if we were having a sit down with our friends at Rand McNally or Funkin' Wagnalls or Google Maps, and you said, hey, Mr. Google Maps, show me Jacksonville. You're literally talking about everything from Kingsland and exit 10 on I-95 inside the Georgia border, south down 95, past Pettit Vedet, heading toward Orlando, through St. Augustine, and then you're also going out I-10, basically to where, I-85 and, I-75 hooks up with you.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about this massive landmass with all of these different folks, all of these different ideas. And I mean, that's a lot of different chainsaws that you're going to have to juggle here in unifying all of these different ideas and all of this landmass to come under the JAXUSL umbrella to understand all the different things that you guys want to do.
You're right. When we're going through our brand identity process, that was very well discovered, and you presented it really well, John. That we do represent a little bit of an FSU, Tallahassee, that's a couple hours away. We represent Lake City. Our demographic goes all the way down to Palm Coast, Daytona. That's about an hour south of St. Augustine. And then we go to that South Georgia, right? We're almost identifiable more as a South Georgia town than necessarily as you would identify, Miami or Orlando and Tampa. So we have this mix, and the land structure and the size of our town. Only the city of Jacksonville, but then you join St. Johns County, the third fastest county in our state, the number one rated school district in our state. The influx of people that are coming in that are starting to shape the identity of our town. We do have, an NFL group teaming town that brings that unity and that excitement around town as well. So it's not like we're a dormant town by any means. We do have people that are excitable and interested in coming together, but us making sure that we are listening to everybody, that we're going to those South Georgia brands, that we're going a little bit out west into the Lake City, region, going down to Palm Coast, and providing that unique opportunity and listening to them and make sure that we are doing our best to attend to their needs, or at least attend to their concerns, and provide an experience that's unique that maybe we haven't seen here before, rather than kind of just keep everyone to their own silos. I think Jacksonville is very good because of the mass, size of it and distancing of things. Everyone has this rich culture of the river, of the beach, a little bit of the downtown, and you kind of spread that out a little bit more. They're wonderful cultural silos, if you would, but nonetheless, how do we connect that experience for everybody? How do we go out to them and look at North Jacksonville, more towards the airport, a little bit of an underserved community? How do we go out there and create a soccer atmosphere to maybe a community that wouldn't have access to our stadium in the South Jax area? So we're very much thoughtful of that. We want to create an opportunity and an experience that's inclusive to our entire region, understanding that our region is not just Duval County. It is very much what we just alluded to. And we want to have our arms reach and accessibility to everyone in our general Jax region, because it's very much Jax, J-A-X, is very much commonly known for the northeast region of Florida, and we want to own that.
All right, so I know that you mentioned things coming down the pike. Go ahead and cut the tease for me as to what these next markers are on the big dry erase board that you've got there in the office. What are the next markers here?
So the excitable thing that we have here in the short term is end of June, we're going to be doing an in-market announcement with the USL about our women's team, kind of unveiling some of the people that we're working with on the women's soccer space, having a celebration of women's sport in our town, really being the first women's professional sport franchise in our town. Historically speaking, we're going to do something that will really connect that and tell the story to everyone else in our city. including our partners, our other sports franchises that we have here. So that's a big one just from an event standpoint and really kind of marking our territory in women's professional space in Jacksonville. Then the next one, late July, early August, will be the announcement of our team brand, the announcement of our team name. I think when we look back, 5-10 years from now, this will come down to be one of the biggest announcements that we'll ever make, because it's going to be our first impression into the city, and we're going to go from concept to reality. Right now, it's something that people can wear on their chest. We talked about being tattooable on their arms or on their back or wherever you like your tattoo. Something that we really want people to own it and to believe in. So that's a big task for us to do, but that's going to be coming. Hopefully, we're working tirelessly with some professionals in that space to bring that to life by end of July. And then by Q3, Q4, if everything goes according to plan, we just finalized our mayoral election here in Jacksonville. We have our first women mayor elected in the city of Jacksonville. So another historic event, especially when you talk about the women's professional franchise. But we've had to wait a little bit for that process to conclude. So now we can really kind of dig our heels into the land and the stadium construction. So hopefully that will come by Q3 and Q4 at the end of this year. So some exciting things for us to be looking forward to in the next 3 to 6 months.
And when you're not hanging out with me here on the network, you can always go on the JAXUSL YouTube channel and go to Mauricio's Corner and see what is on his mind when those video episodes pop up. Mauricio Ruiz of JAXUSL, great to catch up with you, my friend. Great to hear all the updates. And as I always tell you, if you ever want to break news, you can always come on the morning show, and we don't have to do stuff on tape all the time. You can always come on the morning show and come and hang out, and we can talk stuff.
It'd be a pleasure, John. Thank you for having me as always.